This episode, 5 DIY projects you need to think about passing on. John and I were having a discussion about DIY projects, and we were talking about the ones that we even pass on for ourselves. So we thought we might share these ideas with the listening audience because sometimes, folks, it's not worth it. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled 5 DIY Projects You Should Pass On. To help explain, I'm here with John the Wonder Man.
Yeah, the Wonder Man.
Not to be confused with the Wonder Years.
I'm wondering who I am.
Yeah.
Who am I and why?
Yeah,
the age-old question.
The age-old question. Johnny's going to take up stoicism next. Watch. No.
Oh, Larry, I know you've been doing a lot of work at your place down one of your rental places.
I am in another major remodeling mode. Yes.
Yeah. And I've been working on stuff around my house, as well as some of my clients' homes, and hanging porch swings, and which was pretty interesting. Used a few laser techniques that helped me out greatly. Hanging that, we'll get into that at some point. But fencing, there's always fences breaking. Electrical stuff. I just had that. My lights in the back don't work anymore. Not me, my neighbor. How come they don't? Chasing down all those. Anyways, it goes on and on, right? So, but one of the things I was thinking about was doing all these projects, and what is the kind of stuff, what just a short list right now, right off the top of my head, of stuff that probably a lot of, I just want to speak to the homeowners right now. That's even a challenge for a lot of the handymen out there.
It's the challenge for some of the professionals.
It's a challenge for some, exactly. And I'm glad you said that. Just looking at reading some of the boards out there, the handyman boards and some of the professional boards and things like that. And I'm talking about like the Facebook groups and stuff, with discussion groups. Some of these things came up, and you can tell there's a lot of people that shouldn't be doing these jobs. and it goes especially for, and I just want to speak to the homeowners for a second. I know that you can go and you can look at a YouTube video and then think you know how to do it. But I think you should give it a second thought, another once over before you tackle a couple of projects.
What's the one we like to use, Johnny? You can watch a YouTube video on how to fly an airplane, but I suggest you don't go out and try to do it. That's right. Yeah. So,
the first one that I kind of look at is tiling a shower. If you've never done it before, and you've never watched a professional or participated in, with kind of apprenticed under a professional doing it, or have at least done it enough to know the ins and outs of it and the faults, it's tiling a shower all the way around is an interesting task.
It's something that is not, how do we want to say it? Definitely don't. First off, it's going to take you 4 times longer than you think it is, just straight away. Secondly, you're going to need tools you might not have. Okay. And third, there is not a square wall anywhere in North America.
That's another good one right there.
Okay. So what that means is I actually have a client, and they made an attempt to do their bathroom, and they actually did a pretty good job, but it was kind of interesting. She got to the end when she was getting up close to the walls, and she's like, well, I measured this, and I'm like, but
Oh,
but the wall, and I could tell just by looking. I was like, well, the wall is a half inch out of square, and she's like, what's that mean? And I go, that means it's not perpendicular, it's not vertical. And she's like, oh, and then she didn't have the saw, and she didn't blah 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 blah, and it she ended up hiring a professional. And the sad thing is, this professional that came in, John, if this guy would be told to leave my house and don't come back, and
yeah.
he'd be lucky if he got paid, because I mean, he was abysmal. You should see the plumbing he did to hook up the thing. He didn't even forget it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it, but
Yeah,
but
I'll give you an example of what I saw on one of these discussion groups. Now it's quite popular these days to put the big 12 by 12 tiles up, the big tiles, right, instead of
the big
the little ones, right?
the bigger the tile, the more issues there are.
And this thing was not put up right. So this guy moves into this house, and what happens? These tiles, these things are dangerous. They
Uh,
start falling off.
yeah,
They're falling off the wall
they're
in the
heavy.
bathroom,
They're heavy and they're sharp,
and when they break,
and they
brother,
shatter.
it's like glass.
Yep.
And I will tell you that um, when you looked at the job that they did with the thin set, which is the cement behind, what attaches this to the wall, it was awful. I mean, awful. And you could tell why these tiles were starting to. And with all the vibration in your house, you have to take that into consideration, the movement of the house and just the settling of homes and things like that. It's going to be a dangerous thing. So there is that side of it.
And there's when the
You
train drives by, Johnny. When the train goes by
exactly
my house.
well there's I mean there's all kind. Yeah, you live by an airport and planes are flying.
Yeah,
But
right, exactly.
you know, so you bring up a good point. Is that you get in there and you're doing all this, and then you don't measure right. You don't account for the squareness of the. You're not prepping the whole thing right. And the other thing about a shower is that if you don't do it right,
You have a lot of downstream problems
yes,
because
and
it's
that you
water.
are going to set yourself up for a bad day at some point.
I'm going to tell you, if you want to play with tiling, and you want to do something in
Backsplash.
tile backsplash. Yep, do your own backsplash, because
Yeah.
most tile guys don't want to do them anyway. But it's not as water and intensive thing. Find out if you like it, because don't forget, if you're doing any kind of corners, you've got a wall that isn't square there too. So you'll get the hit. But if it's your first time, yeah, do a backsplash. Don't try a floor. Don't try a shower. Don't try and do a backsplash. That's really probably the
Yeah.
biggest piece of advice we can give there.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
then
Johnny,
and
let's
then
let's move on.
I'll just add one last thing, and then you've got a component in there called grout. And if you don't know how to grout and you don't know how to mix grout, you're gonna face a lot of issues.
Oh,
Now, it's not that don't let me scare you off on all these things. It's just something that if you never did it before, you can get out of your league real quick.
yeah,
Anyways,
you can. You can.
next
So
next one, Larry.
next one, yeah. Let's just talk about. We'll call it. I guess I want to call it true electrical work, code electrical work. We'll call it code electrical work. And when we talk about this, we're talking about when you're doing something that is generally, I call it running wire. If you're going to have to run wire, you're trying to do something, or you're trying to add outlets, you have to understand that these are engineered systems, that there's infrastructure items in there. There's things that sometimes you can get in over your head really quickly, and you can actually cause a fire hazard to your home, or an electrical shock hazard if you're not careful. There's some real safety concerns that go on with this stuff. And just for example, John, like everybody says, oh, I'll just add an outlet to my system. I'm going to push it through the wall on the other side. Well, how many outlets are on that circuit? Because by code, you can only have so many outlets on a circuit. And if you're maxed out, now you've got an overstressed problem. It also, what size wire do you have? Do you know? Do you know how to tell? Can you make that assumption?
There
And
is
so forth and so on.
there is so much to this. Um, you know, all the wire that you buy these days is going to be copper wire. In at least for the home, all of us,
Right.
and a lot of folks in their homes have aluminum wire, and
Ugh.
it can't carry the amps that copper does. And you're gonna, like you just alluded to, if you're not right, if you don't take into account what's happening, and what the code is on that thing, no way, no way, leave it, leave it.
Yeah. I actually had an electrician out to my this reno that I'm doing, right? So we're redoing the whole electrical, the whole house, right? And he gave this is a small house, right? I'm going to tell you, it's 625 square feet. And he just told me, he said, if you're going to wire this house, wire it with 12-2 wire. He said, don't use 14. He goes, I know it's easier to pull around. He goes, but the number of service calls that I get for people over amping their wires where it's actually tripping the breakers. Well,
No, I can.
right?
Yeah, I
And
mean
this is
there's a good tip right there.
yeah, right. You plug the vacuum cleaner and one other thing in, and you just pop your breaker when you turn your vacuum cleaner on. That's all it takes. And so there's just a bit to it. Now, we're not saying don't replace like a light fixture or anything like that, or anything that's that kind of thing of ceiling fan. No, you can do those kinds of things. But it's really like when you're getting into the kind of, I'm going to call it the code work or the engineering work, or where you really have to kind of understand exactly what's going on. It's not difficult, but it's also not simple. It's just, if it's your first time, I guess that's the point. If it's your first time, might be something to pass on, or do a deep dive. Find an electrician that'll just tell you, because it's not uncommon knowledge. It's just, uh, you
Well,
know,
there's I think you started off right, and that's code. And there's a lot of things, is what's get into what's the code, is good or bad or indifferent, but there are physics involved in
yes,
this, and there's hard mathematics that you're not, you got to understand about electricity. And when you're going to do it, that electrician that you had that just said that, he makes a very good point. When you think of when you think about everything now seems to, computers, everything's,
everything.
you
Yeah,
plug in everything.
right.
And people are going to be popping these circuit breakers left and right. um
Oh yeah, you don't even want to know what he said about electric cars.
well, yeah, well, that's another show to come, but I will tell you that he's absolutely spot on that. So if you don't understand all that, and you go out and you put the wrong wire in, wrong expectations, you can really have a hazard on your hands.
Yeah, you
So
can.
I think this is good advice, that if you're going to do code work, which you said, boy, leave that to somebody who really knows what they're doing.
And I guess here's the other piece of tip. If you don't know if it's code work or not, it's code work.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? If there's even a question in your mind, it's
yeah,
code work. Well, let somebody that knows what's going on with that.
yeah.
All right, so that's electrical. How about what's the next one, Johnny?
Well, the next one is, I don't really have to worry about it because I don't do it, and that's roof repair.
Yep.
I don't get up on roofs, even if I did when I was younger. You really need to understand a roof system.
It's a system. Number
And
one,
yeah,
understand
you
it's a
have
system.
it's a system, and you just can't go up and um, a
Number one,
simple
walking
patch.
on your roof. Walking on your roof is not a good
Well,
thing.
it from a safety standpoint, that's right.
No, I'm talking about from a longevity of the roof
Well,
standpoint.
safety, longevity. I don't like anybody walking on my roof, and that's why I bought gutter guards, so I don't have to have people walking on my roof
Right.
after I got my new roof on. I don't think anything good comes from it, because nails pop through, but
And
back and
so
forth,
forth
and
and so
pretty,
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Anyways, I know that if you got a roof leak, I would. The other thing is, especially around like a chimney flashing, things like that, that can kind of get very tricky
It can get
of
very tricky.
exactly what that system is. Why did they put
Yeah.
the flashing on there? How is it tucked underneath
Did they put the flashing
at,
on properly?
correct.
Oh my God.
Oh
You know,
yeah. So that whole thing, and it really does boil down to: am I up here wasting my time, money, and am I risking my own safety to not fix this job correctly?
Right.
I guess is what it boils down to. Or should I just get somebody who really knows what they're doing and pay them and get it done right the first time, which you hope. But
Yeah.
that was kind of what I was thinking about when I put this repair a roof on there, because it, as you said, it really is a system, and you need to understand how it all works together before you
Yeah.
start monkeying around with that.
Yeah, it's really it's I don't know how else to describe it. It's a pretty amazing waterproofing system. It really is. The modern roof is just
It is.
it's really an amazing thing. You take it for granted, right? But it's an amazing thing. I mean, it's a really amazing thing, and it all interlocks, and the way everything goes in, and the way that they actually glue themselves together after time, and so forth and so on. It's really an amazing piece of engineering, and properly maintained, it really lasts 25 to 30 years, or more, just depending. And I'm talking about asphalt shingles now. We're not talking about metal, and we're not talking about more exotic roofs other than that, but which last longer, by the way. They also cost a bit more, but they do last longer. Anyway, be that as it may, roofing is one thing that, unless you really have done a lot of roofs, because I think the biggest thing that I see, John, and this is that it seems like in today's architecture, we've got these really steep pitched roofs, and folks, don't go up on a steep pitched roof unless you really know what you're doing. My God, it's a long way to the ground. You know what? Why don't you just take a 12-foot ladder and go jump off it onto the
Right.
ground and see how much you like it? Just don't take the chance. By the way, when you're sliding down the roof, you're probably also damaging the roof, ripping shingles off as you go. You didn't hear me say that, but most people are. And another little tip, this is a roofer's tip. They carry a straight claw hammer for a reason. And that's, if they start to slide, they use that hammer like an ice axe. They'll turn that thing over and jam it in the roof and carry themselves out. I don't know if you realize that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the real reason for a straight clawed
Oh
hammer.
yeah.
It's to save your butt from going off
Yeah.
the end of the
Just
roof,
just like climbing a mountain.
just like climbing a mountain. So anyway, repairing a roof. The next one is very part and parcel of the same thing: cutting down big trees.
Yeah.
If you're not a tree guy and you don't have the right equipment, my brother cut trees, Johnny. I don't know if I ever told you this. My brother cut trees for a living for quite some time. He did it all through high school and college, and he cut trees, and he works for one of the airlines, and many years ago he got laid off. So he thought he'd go back to cutting trees. He made a cut on a tree. That damn thing jumped. It broke his leg in 3 places. That was the last time he cut trees. And he was a climber and the whole deal. Don't cut big trees unless you really know what you're doing. And certainly don't cut big trees close to anything. If you think you're going to control that tree once it starts to fall and you really don't know what you're doing, you're dreaming, because a little gust of wind will take that whole canopy and lay it right over your neighbor's car or your house or you.
Yep. That's some sound advice, because what, when I first moved into my place here, and you've seen it, how many trees are around here.
You live in the forest, Johnny. Face
I was out there cutting trees down one time when I was a lot younger, and nothing happened, and but that gust of wind can come by.
Whew.
That's a good example of what can happen, even if you make the proper cut on it.
Right.
If you'll notice that when if you see guys that are cutting big trees down, you'll always see them with some kind of rope, and they're pulling the top of that tree in a direction as
Yes,
they're
they
cutting,
are.
so they
Yes,
can
they are.
control that felling that tree. And it's just it's just amazing the way these guys can work that. But you just going out and getting a steel saw, a steel saw, and starting it up a chainsaw and getting out there and cutting a tree down, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, big. Now we're talking big trees. We're not talking, 4 or 5 inch trees that are
No, right,
close to your house
right.
that are 25 feet tall. We're not talking about. We're talking about 70, 80 footer stuff like that.
That's
Get
it.
get somebody that knows what they're doing. Just you're doing everybody a favor. I'll tell you the other thing too. Those guys come with the right equipment. They're going to or hopefully they're going to haul off that brush. Do you know how hard it is to haul off brush? My
Yes,
God, it's a lot of work.
yes,
And it's
yes.
just, they throw that stuff in the chipper. They get paid. They come with that crew. they're in and out of there in no time.
And it's all cleaned up and all.
Eh,
I will tell you now, and I just thought of this too. I'll tell you where I've seen a lot of accidents. I think I've seen as many accidents just by cutting limbs, big limbs out of
yeah,
trees,
yeah,
than I have with just cutting the whole tree down.
right.
Because the limbs will always they always will, if you don't know how to do it,
They catch, they twist, they
that's
skewer
exactly
you.
right.
Yeah, they
That's exactly right.
if you and you'll also notice too, the professional guys, they generally tie all those limbs off. So they loop a rope up over the top, tie it to the thing. When they cut it, it's really hanging there. They
Yep.
don't just drop it. It just doesn't fall to the ground. Very rarely,
Yeah.
very rarely do
Yeah.
they do that. And by the way, too, just another quick thing on cutting trees. You know when they do the power line stuff, have you ever seen what they use? Yeah, the guy's sitting in a cage and he's got this arm that goes out off this truck and it's got a saw blade on the end. He's 70 or 80 feet from that tree branch when it comes down. He doesn't care. Those trees drop. But guess
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
You
that's
know,
that's a let's get her done and use about $300,000 worth of equipment to
yeah,
do it,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
then you're in good shape. Yeah,
So
yeah. I always thought you could make like a horror movie with that thing. It's got that great big saw blade in the front, just spinning around like a circular saw blade. You ever seen
yeah.
that? I mean, I'm always wary about driving by and that guy swings around and cuts my car in half.
Stuff
Anyways,
horror movies are made of, Johnny.
yep.
Stuff horror movies made. What's the last one we've got?
The last one is gas appliances. Hooking up gas appliances.
Yeah.
Um, how should I say this?
Oh, there's so many things to say. I can't even touch it.
This goes right along with the electrical. If you have never done it, get somebody to do it. There's just too much liability for you, consequences, let's say, of you not doing it right.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a gas leak.
The problem with a little gas leak is that
It's
6 hours later it becomes
it's
very
a big
explosive.
yeah. It makes a bang.
Makes a big bang.
Yeah.
Like your house could go away.
Yeah, and your
Which
neighbors
is-
won't be happy either because they won't have any windows.
They-
Probably
yeah,
garage
I mean,
doors will be gone too.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
So that's another thing. I mean, actually, I had to do some gas hookup. I actually had my plumber friend come over and just just for a sanity check. Hey, man.
By the way, these are jobs that we generally don't do professionally either. I know
No, I will not.
don't.
No, I will not do that. Now, I have done some fireplaces, but I have not done. I won't do. I won't do hookups for stoves and dryers. I just
No.
I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing that.
Me neither. And it's too much liability. And,
Yeah, well,
and
that's
it's just one of those things. It's like I don't do plumbing on the third floor of a condo either. No, I don't even hook a sink up. No, right? Because if it leaks, I got 3 floors straight down. Nope.
Yeah.
So that's it. So all right, well that's our 5 things that you should just contemplate passing on. I can't tell you enough, especially the tree cutting. Gosh, that one. I just know too many people that have gotten hurt, cutting trees, even small trees. And you said it, you're right. The branches, they cut the branches and they really don't even know what they're doing. And they're like, I just want to cut the whole big thing down. And it's like, well, that whole big thing is a small tree, and except it's hanging horizontally, like just whatever. But and they're on a step ladder. Like, really? Okay.
Oh, go and Google. Go and Google some of this stuff
Oh, geez, no.
and see guys with extension ladders up against a round tree, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's moving in the breeze. That's moving in the
you
breeze.
want to? I saw my neighbor. I walked by. I said, "Hey, you want to rethink that?"
Johnny, everybody needs a neighbor that's a
yeah.
handyman.
So-
That's what they say. Johnny, you know what? The spaceship has landed. Do we look at it or do we take it apart?
This one I'll do. Take it apart.
Take it
Take
apart.
it apart.
We haven't haven't done this traditional ending in quite some time. So I said to myself, we're just going to do the traditional ending. Do we look at it or do we take it apart? So, all right, folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors all that good, groovy stuff. We hope we are giving you content that is helping you save time, money, and aggravation. That is our mantra. We really want you to be, we want your home maintenance to be simple, not confusing and aggravating. So with that, if you have any ideas that you would like to find out more about, send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com or handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. Either one gets to us. We do have a website that you can sign up for our free newsletter. That's handymanprosradioshow.com, and or we are out there on Facebook at Handyman Radio. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.